Well, welcome everyone to Purpose Powered People. I am super excited to have Janiece here. Hello, Janiece.
Hi, Jessica.
I'm so happy that you networked with us earlier with a bunch of amazing people. Did you have fun earlier doing that?
Oh, that was great. Yeah, some really neat people on the phone or on
Oh,
the.
webinar. I know technology is changing all the time. Phone, webinars, so much fun.
Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you for joining this Zoom format. I'm really excited to go ahead and conduct the interview, asking
Okay.
questions. You know, we have our whole team who's going to write and edit for you and everything else because we really want to convey your story in such a way to impact the world. And I know that you are an amazing person. I met you over at Breakthrough event with Gary Barnes. I'm a huge Gary
Oh, thank
fan. I know you are as well.
Yes.
Yeah, I just can't wait for your message to get out there. So I always like to start out with, please share with us something awesome about your day.
Something awesome about my day. I went for an amazing walk this morning, and it was kind of chilly with the wind, but just looking, I think it's kind of like looking at life. What you focus on, no matter where you're at, if you focus on the positive, you always find really unique things. So.
Yes, I love that. And I love on your Facebook page, Walks with Janiece, how you post all these really neat photos and insights and what you valued about the day, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I like to see your posts. It's inspirational. It's fun.
Yeah, thanks.
I
And
really,
it keeps me going. It's kind of accountability.
that's one of the good things about social media is accountability. I actually see people who say, I will not eat this cookie, and they put it out there so they won't eat that cookie, right?
Right.
So it always holds that accountability. Well, today I know we have a lot to go ahead and cover in such a short time. So tell us a
Okay.
little bit about your business and how you evolved and got to where you're at today.
Okay. Well, I had a friend introduce me to Zig Ziglar on audio cassette back in the 1990s. And she said, Janiece, why don't you listen to this tape, audio cassette? So I put it on and I started listening. And he kept saying, you can help anybody in life you want if you just help enough other people get what they want. And I thought, this guy's insane. There's just no way. He doesn't know who I am. And so I kept listening, and he changed my life. And I just decided that I was going to be the next Zig Ziglar. Obviously not the next Zig Ziglar, but I was going to be the next Janiece Rendon, to go out and help somebody, at least touch one person, to let them know that there's hope out there, and if they have a dream, they can do it. After listening to that audio cassette over and over, I received my diploma at the age of 84, high school diploma. I wrote a proposal to get that because they kept telling me I can get a GED, but I wanted my diploma. So I overcame a bunch of things. I received a bachelor's degree and a master's degree, and I just kept going because I thought I needed that backup to be in presence, to have that education part. So I did that. And then I was working for corporate for 30 years, and I kept getting laid off, not because I was a bad person or what have you. It's just the life situations. And then one time, a situation worked where me and my boss didn't get along. And so, trying to get rid of me and that and all that bit. And I thought, there's got to be a way that I used to be a good employee. Now I wasn't a good employee. Now what happened in that change? And that's when I really started looking into life, and I learned about the facts, which is forgiveness, attitude, choice, trust, and then stepping into your uniqueness. And I think through the experiences of that, it's really kind of changed my life. In the process, when I was working there, I started out in production, and I did not know that when you start in production that you more than likely 90% or more, you do not get into the white collar. And I didn't know that. So sometimes being naive is really good. And so through the process, when I was trying to get on permanent and get a full-time job there, I had just taken custody of my aunt's kids, 2 boys. One was 2 and one was 3, and one was deaf. So I had to learn a whole new language and do all this stuff. So I thought, I'm going to learn as much as I can for my next job. And I think that's what kept me going through the 5 layoffs and learning about life. And it just really changed my life about 20 years ago. And now I'm at the point where I get to retire, and now I really get to help other people thrive. And I'm really excited to start this new path in my life.
Wow, what a story. So anybody listening, I'm sure, can relate to being laid off, or, any sort of transition. I know we talked about earlier, divorce. Unfortunately, that's a big transition in a lot of lives. Some people listening might be able to relate. They just don't get along with their boss and can absolutely connect with you that way. I do have to ask you though, I don't know if I heard you right. What age did you get your high school
I
diploma?
know. 34 years old. Yes, I did.
I'm all,
no, 34. 34 years old. And they wouldn't let me go back to high school because I was over 21. And so I went to my boss and I said, how can I get my diploma? I'm only half a credit short in physical education, but I'm too old to go back to high school. And he said, write a proposal. And so, no matter what you face in life, there's always a way to get around it. It's just a matter of asking. Learning how to ask people for opportunities. And so I wrote a proposal and I went back to the high school and I ended up getting it. Yeah. There is always a way to get what you want in life.
Wow. Oh, absolutely. I had a coach years ago who told me that. And it's funny, my little girl at the time was listening, and, kids pick up. And one day, I can't remember if we were in a store where there was a McDonald's there or something, but anyhow, she just went right on up there and said, hey, can I please have a free toy? And they gave it to her. And she's like, Mom, remember, you got to ask. You don't know until you ask them, oh, where is she picking this up from? So what they pick up. But what I find so fascinating, speaking of that, is childhood seems to relate so much to us today and experiences. So Janiece, what did you love to do as a kid?
Oh my gosh. I'll tell you this story. I was an only child and my mother worked nights. And so I was at the babysitter's next door, and she had a son and he was an only child. So she babysat all these kids, and we were the older babysitting kids that were there, and we entertained them. Oh. We would do dance skits, and we would do singing, and he loved Red Skeleton, so he would do that crazy act, and that's what we did. So we had this captivated audience until they went home. So it's kind of what I did, and now it's kind of like I'm stepping back into that zone. It's really weird how life circles itself. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
And I love hearing those experiences, because with that, most people are terrified of speaking. Most people are terrified of getting in front of other people. I was one of those children, just so terrified my face turned beet red. And so I've come a long ways. But with you, it's like you were meant to be on stage. And I'm so excited. I hear that you are an amazing speaker to empower women, right? So tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, I think women are not always told that we have opportunities. We kind of go into the workforce and we find a job. Mm-hmm. And we kind of, at least for myself, I've noticed that I've kind of settled into a job. I've gotten laid off and moved into another one and gotten laid off. So kind of I let life lead me through. And luckily, I've been a lucky one where I have learned a lot about myself and have been able to figure out what I want to do. But some people get stuck in a certain place and they don't have that opportunity for growth. And I'd really like to help women and men really to step into, if you have a passion, find it and figure out how to get it out. While you're working, you can still work on this stuff. I went to school full time to get my credentials to back me up for when I retire. I've been preparing for my retirement for 20 years. So no matter if you're in a job that you don't like, it's okay. What can you do on the side, or what can you learn? Ask questions. How can you do more at the job, or what have? There's always a way to do that. I had a mentor at work tell me, no matter what job you want to do in life, you can probably do it here in corporate. And I thought, wow, that was pretty good advice. And so just being open. I was an open sponge to just taking everything because I knew where I wanted to go someday.
That's amazing. And I know you're great with people going through transition, and change can be good. Sometimes people don't like the change, they're scared of the change, the fear. But every single time I've noticed that there has been a change, usually it turns out some sort of benefit, and it may not be immediately seen, but sometimes down the road. And it's always wonderful to have someone who's been there, done that, right? Like we were talking about earlier, someone came to me and said, here's my biggest challenge, my business. And I said, well, ironically, that was my challenge. This was what I did. And they said, wow, that just changed everything, right? So it's always good to, I'm learning from others and always love learning. And I'm excited you're going to be out there on the stage like you did as a kid, and, keep sharing the facts. Wasn't there a TV show called Facts of Life? I barely remember.
Yes, there was. As a matter of fact.
That. Yeah, I think I was like middle school. I don't remember watching that show, but you're kind of teaching facts out there on how to make the best use of this life and change and transition. It's okay, and you can be there to work with people through that. So what are 3 fun facts about you that nobody really knows? We always love to share some fun stuff.
Well, let me see. 3 fun facts. Oh, gosh. Well, that was a good question. I'm an only child.
Okay.
I was very shy, and so my first speech, I cried through the whole thing.
Really?
I literally cried. And the funny thing is I packed the house. I brought all my coworkers and my boss and my friends, and I cried through the whole thing. And all I had to do was tell about myself. So, if I can go out there, anybody can, because I literally cried through the whole thing. But I did notice that there was something there that the audience kind of moved in and moved out. So I knew I had something. And then I thought about it from back then, entertaining the babysitting kids. Wow, where did that come from? And so maybe for whatever reason, that was my purpose. I'm not sure.
What topic did you speak on?
When?
That first time you cried. What were you speaking?
Me.
Oh,
I was just
really?
myself. And I was just so nervous. I guess I was so nervous about speaking in front of people. And you can conquer through anything. You really can. And another thing is getting a high school diploma at 34 years old. How do you do that? Nobody does that. Yeah, you can. There's always a way.
That's amazing. So what age did you drop out of high school?
I didn't drop out. I did not complete a half a credit in physical education, so they could not give me my diploma, even though I had more credits than I needed. That was a required part, and so I had to figure out how to get that done. And so it's amazing. You just kind of ask people, how can I get this done? And so I wrote a proposal, and I was going to the wellness center, and they kept track of my hours, and you just put it all together, and they accepted it. Maybe they got tired of me calling.
That is so awesome.
Determination.
So maybe this is the biggest thing, and I know majority of these questions you're just taking probably offside, so I apologize, but I'm dying to know what's the biggest thing you've ever asked for or you were scared to ask for.
Oh, the biggest thing I ever asked for.
Maybe it was that, and we can always come back so you can think of it. But I have a feeling you have so many more stories to share. So whichever one comes to the top of your mind, feel free to go ahead and share it. So Janiece, I was recently interviewed, and I thought it was a really good question. If people could describe you in 3 to 7 words, what words would be next to your name?
Let's see. I just had that too. I asked some people. Friendly, very compassionate. Open to really hear them. Real. I think I'm just real and non-judgmental, and I'm just, I'm there. I guess I'm their shoulder.
And it's nice to meet real people. It's amazing how many people say it's hard to find real, good people, and I'm grateful that you're there for that. And is that a picture of you? I'm trying to see in the background. Is that a picture of you?
Oh.
Graduation?
Oh, that was my graduation picture. Sorry.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So some other words that people usually line up is, wife, mother, father.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wife. Well, talking about wife, I met my soulmate at the age of 40-some years old. I think it was 40, I don't know, or mid-40s. And so there's always hope out there for any of the ladies out there that think they're never going to find anybody. And it was interesting. My mom introduced us. He was the plumber. And so while he was there working on the plumbing, my mom said, I have a daughter. And I'm like, oh my God, you did not do that. She said, I did. And he called the next day and wanted to know how my plumbing was doing. And I'm like, well, that's really good. And so we connected, and we have been together since that day, August 2nd, 2006. Wow. And then my mother passed away 6 months later, and I'm being the only child. I believe my mom was able to go home in peace because knowing that I wouldn't be by myself. And I think it was just an amazing gift that fell in place. Joe asked me how I got his phone number, and I said, well, I was in the phone book. And he says, well, they had a problem with the phone book that year, and we were not in the phone book. So I went back to work, and I looked in the phone book, and I had a 1999 phone book, and it was 2006. So you tell me right there, there's meaning there. My mom was able to go home in peace, knowing I wouldn't be alone. And then a little bit later, Joe had a kidney pancreas transplant, and so I was able to help him. And life is just amazing. And one of the funny stories, when our first date, we sit down, we're getting ready, we order, and he says, I just want to tell you something. I have a 7-year-old daughter, and if you have a problem with that, let's just end it right now. And I thought, great, we're laying it all on the table. I don't know how to cook, so if you have a problem with that, we can just do it right now. And we've been together ever since. So if you're still waiting for that perfect one, just be yourself. And what is it that you love to do? Don't try to be somebody else, because then you find the wrong person. Just be who you are, and life will find itself around.
I love that. That's a beautiful message. That's so funny. He says he has a kid, and you said you didn't cook, right? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so funny. That's awesome. I love it. And I'm sure you've been an amazing role model to be part of her life. And that's wonderful that he wanted to support her. That's very lovely. So, and it's great. So how many years have you guys been married for now? Let's see here.
Well, and there's a whole other story I'm talking about, wanting to know about me. He proposed to me a year later, August 2nd, 2007. And it took 8 more years before I decided to marry him, because I have this fear of commitment. And he kept saying, so when are we getting married? And I'm like, yeah. When are we getting married? Yeah. And I just kept avoiding the question just out of fear, I guess. And then I finally knew that he was, what are we going to do here? And, life circumstances, with my mom dying and the transplant and, just life. And so I went to a seminar, actually, and the drill sergeant, she said, Janiece, cross over this line right here. Take that step of faith. And I did, and it was this imaginary line. I stepped over it. I was so excited, and I thought, what am I afraid of? Mm-hmm. And I went home, and I took his daughter in the bedroom, and I said, can I ask your dad to marry him? And she said, well, doesn't the man ask the woman? And I said, well, he did, like 7 years ago. And she said, yeah. And so I went in the dining room, and I said, can I have the ring? And I took the ring off and from him, and I got down on my knees, and I proposed to him, and I said, will you marry me? And I said, I'm sorry I waited so long, but I have this fear of commitment. And because my father left my mother when she was real young, when I was real young, and then she met another man, and it was another bad scene. And so I just had this big fear. And so we got married for Thanksgiving, because I'm so thankful for him. Wow. And we will be married for 2 years, and for Thanksgiving, actually.
Wow. Wow. So it sounds like your mother had 2 bad experiences, right? Which caused you to have, yes. And I can actually relate to that a little bit too. I had a fear too, my parents' marriages. So I can absolutely relate with you on that and taking that leap of faith. So I applaud you for doing so. And I love that line story about hopping over, and he was probably completely taken back, right, when you asked him? He
was like, wow, what's happening here? And he's like, yeah. And he was so excited, And it was really it was beautiful. It really was beautiful.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. So, so was there any other experiences in your life that you can think of that really has caused you to want to, be someone to go out there and assist others through transition? It sounds like as a kid you had transitioned with your mother, and then with the kidney, and all sorts of experiences, careers, anything else that's kind of inspired you to be like that?
Yes, I took custody of my aunt's kids. She has 6 kids, and I helped raise 5 out of 6 kids while she was in and out of prison. And so I've had all ages. I've never had any children of my own, but I have raised children that from all ages. The boys were 2 and 3, like I said, and then they went back to their parents, and then they got in trouble again. And so I took 2 of the other kids, and just through the years, they were always at my house. I always had them every holiday, every summer vacation. I figured they needed a place to be safe and have a different vision of life. They were into drugs and stuff. So, life sometimes is hard. And so to be that safety for somebody, whether it be on the weekends or just going and taking a kid out for coffee or something, it's just having that difference of life. So I was very blessed in the ability to help these children see a different life. I took them on vacation, and then some things happened, and I ended up adopting the 2 girls. So I had them when they were in 1st and 3rd grade until they graduated and turned 18. And then the oldest daughter, we kind of had some strife, and she knew her mother, so she kind of really had a hard time leaving her mom. Where the youngest girl really didn't know her mom because her mom went to prison right after she was born. So it was easier for the youngest one, but the oldest one always never called me mom, where the youngest one did. And so when she started getting old enough, she wanted to go home and go back to her mother, because her mother, was not doing better, but let's just say she was out. And so there was a lot of anger, and there was a lot of bitterness, because, here I give my life up. I never had children of my own. I never got married because I was taking care of these children. And then, you don't feel like you get the fair treatment, well, gee, you should love me, or you should appreciate me. And so there was a lot of bitterness and anger. And I think this is really where I focus on the power of forgiveness, because 5 years is a long time to hold on to anger and all that bitterness. And I was at church one day, and the pastor said, if you're having problems with your children or whatever, and you haven't talked in a long time, just call them and text them and tell them you love them. So I did. I texted her and I said, I love you. And we really haven't talked in 5 years. And we got a connection again. Now, I know we'll never be the same, and it will never be the same as when we were children. I mean, I was her mom and stuff. But that connection was there, and the ability to let go of anger and bitterness and to forgive. I am telling you, it's a freedom. It's a freedom. No matter whether someone's laying you off at work, or your spouse don't get along, or your children, it's letting that go. That is the biggest thing you could ever do in life, and your life will move on. I'm telling you, it's great.
Yeah. I can absolutely relate. Easier said than done, if anybody's watching. And, I've forgiven, different family and people throughout my life. And it can be difficult, but once you truly forgive, like you said, it's just amazing, the inner peace. And, someone once said, when you actually hold that anger, you're not harming them, you're only harming yourself. And exactly. So I'm happy you're there to help people through that.
And, it's not about forgetting. It's not that you forget. It's releasing. It's just releasing that, so you can be free. It's about you being free, because like you said, you hold on to that. You're captivated. They're out living their own life. So it's about learning to just let go and release.
Yeah. I love it. Absolutely love it. Okay. So I'm going to go to my list of questions here. I'm so far, I've just been off the top of my head. If someone was to ask you what makes you so different from others in your industry, now I know you speak and consult and work on, the facts, like what we talked about. So what else really sets you apart, would you say?
What sets me apart? I think the ability to understand. Mm-hmm. I've had a lot of life changes, so I can relate to a lot of different life changes. And if I haven't, I've known people that have. I have a lot of friends who have consoled in me and told me deep, dark stories, and to know that they can overcome some of the things that they have and give me the permission to share that to help somebody else is just amazing, without using names, obviously.
Well, yeah, of course. And that does, I really think, set you apart. You've actually experienced probably, or in one way or another. And do you have any testimonials or anything of that nature of how you've transformed someone or people's lives?
I do have a few. Actually, one cute one is that I can think of right off the cuff. One of the girls, she said, we had sat down and we talked, and she thought about a lot of trusting the curves. I learned how to ride a motorcycle, and because I wanted to ride as a family. So 53 years old, I go to motorcycle school and I'm learning how to ride a motorcycle, and I'm going around these curves and I'm like, oh my gosh, what did I get myself into? This is crazy. I'm afraid, I can barely balance, let alone ride this motorcycle. And I realized the best thing in life is learning how to trust the curves in life. I've always been afraid to try, afraid to do anything. So I've stayed in my box for so many years. And so learning how to trust the curves. And so I was just talking to my friend and one of the ladies that I coached, and she emails me. It was probably months and months later. And she says, thank you, Janiece, for coaching me. She says, I learned how to trust the curves, and I stepped into a role, and I took a role and for acting, and she got the main part. And it was like, hey, and it's just because of sharing my story of being afraid, she was able to do that, because her passion has always been to act. And so she did it, and she's probably, I don't know, early 40s, and to do that and just step into that zone was amazing. And it was a real compliment. Yeah.
That's a huge compliment. And it sounds like not only your stories, but also you have probably a system and, like you said, some coaching, consulting program to assist people to get through that more too, right?
Right.
And would you really say that you feel that working on the facts, is this really your purpose in life? I
believe so, because in learning how to forgive, like we talked about, but attitude is huge. I mean, you have to have a good attitude. Even if I was in a position where I was not doing a good job, and my boss comes in and she didn't like me or whatever it was, and so she was trying to get rid of me. And so when you really take a step back and look at, okay, what is my part in this situation? Yes, life may not be fair. And so it was like, okay, it was attitude. Every time I got laid off, and I did get hired because from another, department, mainly because of my attitude. They couldn't believe I had already been laid off 4 times at that time. How can you be so friendly and happy being laid off 4 times from the same company? And I said, well, I can't control anything else but my attitude. I know if it's time for them to let me go, whether it be personal or not personal, I'm going to get let go, but I can control how I go for an interview or take on my new life. And so attitude was huge. And then the other is choice. We have a choice in life. Do we want to stay where we're at? I've seen a lot of people that have gotten laid off from corporate, and they leave with a bitter attitude, and they take it with them, and they never let it go. And they, oh, Janiece, you're so lucky. You've been at you've been at corporate for this long. And it's like, it's a choice. It's a choice to have a great attitude and learn how to forgive and move on. And then trust. Just trust in yourself. Trust that life is going to be okay. I mean, you will fall in the place that needs to be. And if it's time for you to let go of that one place, meaning relationship or work, you're going to find another place. One of my friends told me, and I thought this was really amazing. When I got laid off, it was like the first or second time, she said, Janiece, you already have this level of, I forget what she says right off the top of my head, but this level of who you are. And no matter if somebody lays you off or fires you or leaves you in a relationship, you're going to end up back up here. You may be down here right now, but you will end up back where you are to grow even further. And I thought, wow, that was amazing. And it really helped me. And then the last is to step into your uniqueness. You really have something. Everybody has something to share, and let it shine.
I love it. So let's talk more about your purpose. So we spoke a little bit about speaking and consulting. So tell us about your full purpose today.
My purpose, I'm sorry, I don't understand.
What's your full purpose today? Is it masterminding? Is it retreats? Is it coaching? I mean, what's your
doing play shops, kind of like play and learn.
Okay.
Not only going to learn, like gathering people together to learn, but also have fun doing it, doing some kind of craft and getting all senses together to learn something. So that's what I really want to formulate.
Sounds fun. Any fun places you've been eyeing to go to? Not yet?
Fiji.
Ooh. I have not
Yeah.
been there. I have not been there. That would be a lot of fun. That would be super fun.
Yeah. Tony Robbins talks about it all the time. I'm like, I've got to go there. So
That's awesome. That's awesome. So where did you grow up, Janiece? I mean, where did you?
I was born in Raton, New Mexico,
Okay.
and I was just born there, and I grew up in North Glen, Colorado.
Okay. So that's how you ventured over to Colorado. Okay.
Yeah.
I was curious about that. Any fun childhood stories or other experiences you want to share with us?
Oh, let's see, childhood stories. We went camping all the time, and we went to Mexico almost every year. We would drive. My stepdad had 5 kids, and then there was me. And so we would pile into the car, not the oldest one, she was already out on her own, but we would pile into a car and drive to Mexico, Juarez, Mexico, usually every year, and just go into the swimming pool and just, at the resort or whatever, and just have a really good time. And one time we left one of our sisters at the store because they thought they were in the front, we thought they were in the back. We were in the truck that time with a camper, and she got left behind, so we had to go all the way back to go pick her up. So one of the lessons is count your children before you go. It happens a lot.
It does, actually. I have a friend who once admitted to me, she goes, I couldn't believe it. I left my kid at, church and went all the way home and, just had a newborn, and she was horrified, So yeah, it happens, I think, more often than people realize. And is that sister of yours okay today? Is she traumatized?
Yes.
Awesome. That's so cool. That's awesome. Okay. Well, anything else you want to share with anybody watching this interview, or? Oh, you have a book. You have a book.
I do. I'm in I wrote the book, and now it's with the publisher right now. We're trying to figure out a name and then getting that published. So hopefully next year we'll get it going, and that will start the new journey. So yeah, I'm excited.
Awesome.
Yeah,
I'm excited.
Life is good.
What's the best way that people can connect with you?
Facebook. Facebook's pretty good. Or Janiece.Rendon@gmail.com.
Yeah, I love your name because, like Jessica Peterson, I have 2 friends named Jessica Peterson, and there's 50 million of us, but I love the spelling of your name. So it's Janiece, and then
Well, it wasn't. It was Janice. My father named me after his girlfriend. My mother wasn't too thrilled, but she liked the name, so she kept it. But people kept calling me Janice. So I went to the courthouse and I added that extra E, I-E-C-E, $50 back in the day, and they still call me Janice. But, what do you do?
Oh, that is so awesome. That's so awesome. Okay, well, thank you so much for your time. We can't wait to go ahead and share this because I love the analogy of facts, and for you to spread the message out there even more and make an impact in people's lives. So thank you for sharing your purpose and your experiences and stories, and thank you for everything you do.
Sure. Thank you, Jessica. You're awesome. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Have a great day. Bye.
You too. Bye.